Okay, it's next day of my preparing for the interview with Node.js and React. And I did some research remembering Node.js and React because I haven't used React for several years now. I've been using Vue mostly, so I thought I knew React well, but when I came to these questions, it was kind of funny because every simple question I don't remember. So yeah, it's a fresh new day, and I use the same prompt above, but I ask the system to ask me questions one after another, and pretend to be interviewer so I can answer. And here we have one question I did just to verify the prompt is working, and now we have the second question. The HANA, virtual interviewer, asks me, like, can you explain how you would optimize database query in Node.js application? What strategies or tools would you use to improve performance in a situation where a query is taking too long to execute? Yeah, so I'm answering now. First of all, I would use SQL Engine utilities to identify particular queries that are slow. In my SQL, for example, there would be log slow queries. Yes. Then, after identifying the query, I would look at the structure of it, see the where part and the joins, and check if there is enough indexes exists on the table. I would apply non-existing indexes to the table to make things better. That is generally the first steps to optimizing SQL queries in any framework, not just Node.js. If you want more, I can talk more about that, but generally these are the first steps. And the HANA replies, your approach is on the right track. Here's some feedback. Identifying slow queries. Using MySQL slow query log is great first step. It's good that you understand the importance of identifying the slow queries before trying to optimize them. Optimizing query structure. You correctly mentioned examining the where clause, join, support, and consider select fields, whether you're pulling more data than necessary, reviewing the query execution plan, explain. Okay, it's another valuable step for identifying inefficient operations. Okay, agree. Your emphasis on checking and adding indexes is essential. It's good to think about composite indexes when querying involve multiple columns. Consider covering indexes to avoid excess in the table itself. You could have expanded a bit more on index management. For example, avoiding too many indexes, understanding how indexes affect writes. Well, I told you I could do more. Okay, caching and other strategy. You didn't mention it, but when talking about caching results, okay, example for Redis. Yeah, I agree. can be additional strategy to improve performance for query requested data. Another idea is query optimization, restriction query. Overall answer is solid. Okay. Agreed. Next question. Let's move on to React. React lifecycle. Could you explain the difference between class components and functional components in React? How do lifecycle methods differ between two, and how do you handle lifecycle behavior and functional components using hooks? Okay, I think yesterday she did like the same question, so I'm kind of prepared today. So in old days, when the trees were small, React was completely class-based, and in those times we used class methods to inject our code in specific event stages, event loop stages. For example, there were class methods like component did mount, component didn't mount, component did update, and so on. However, when React hooks were introduced, it all came down to using use effect and other use effect similar methods to control the event loop stages code. If you provide no second parameter to use effect hook, it would run every time component re-renders. If you pass an empty array, your code will run only first time, which is equivalent to mount. This one, which is equivalent to on component update. If you pass an empty array, your code will run only first stage unit on component mount, git mount. But generally, you would provide list of variables your code depends on as a second parameter, kinda like watch and view. Hannah, great response. You covered the core differences between class components and functional components well. Here's some feedback. You rightly mentioned the lifecycle methods like component did mount, component did update, component will mount. These are parts of class-based company systems. Explanation could have briefly mentioned how these methods provide hooks into mounting, updating, and unmounting phases. Functional comments with hooks. You have greater view of user effect, especially the various way it can be. Implementation is clear, captures essence. You also compare the view watch, which is helpful. For the clarity, it would be nice to have mentioned use label, which works similarly to brands. Yeah, I know layer of effect, but it's kinda wasn't necessary. Overall, you did an excellent job. Okay, next question. Now let's discuss the state management. State management with Redux. How do you manage global state in React application using Redux? Can you explain the basic flow of Redux and how you handle actions, reducers, and dispatching React applications? Well, the core principle of Redux is one directional data flow changes flow inspired by Flux architecture. That means that rather than modifying state directly, we claim the state to be immutable. No, I don't think it's right. We use actions to perform changes on the state. We send actions to the reducer. We dispatch actions to the reducer function, which is the only place responsible for modifying the state. Reducer, I don't know if it's true, but let's write it down like a true function, and gets the current state, applies modifications, and store. I think it's not necessary, or maybe it's even wrong. Okay. This gets the current state, applies modifications, and stores it back to the store. Awesome. Okay, that's the basics, I think. Good start. You captured the main idea. One-way data flow. Correctly mentioned. That's the backbone of actions, and reducer your explanations is on point. State management, collaborated bit and store. Connects using this and actually use dispatch. Okay, I should have mentioned use selector is dispatch. It would be helpful to touch Redux middleware like Thunk or Saga, which often. Okay, that could be another question for your information. Now let's talk about TypeScript. TypeScript with React. How do you ensure type safety in a React application using TypeScript? Can you explain how you would type props, state, and event handlers in a functional component, and any tools or techniques you would use to avoid common TypeScript pitfalls? Well, that's a tough one. I'm not sure how I answer that, because when creating components, I would use TSX extension instead of JS, and that way my ESLint IDEA helper will force me to provide typings for component function properties. I would set up my lint and ts config just on not to allow any by default when using state inside the component code. I would also need to type it then if necessary. I would extract all the shared types to a separate shared resource, like a folder, to make it more accessible and easy. The same approach would go with events and state and all the code. Great answer. You touched on several important TypeScript best practices using TSX extension. Blah, boom, boom. Type safety in props and state. Explicitly type. Yeah. You didn't mention the syntax for typing props and state. Specifically, for example, for props, you define props like the phrase like react.fc and props as generic. Okay. Similar for state, you would use state with generic. Okay, this is TypeScript generic. What do you want from me? You always do things like that. You could have given a bit more detail how to show okay, shared types. Absolutely right. Strict TypeScript setup mentioned. TypeScript avoid any, which is crucial in strict mode. Force avoiding. And the good mention common pitfalls such as use of unknown versus any type and how to avoid them by leveraging type guards and type assertions. You know, dominant is extremely handling them with proper type guards can improve. So yeah, overall this is a strong answer. Just a couple of small errors delivered. This is all questionable, you know. You could ask additional questions. And finally, let's talk about testing. How the approach is writing automated tests for React application. All these libraries, the ensure components logic well tested. Well, me personally, when developing an application, I prefer to use end-to-end testing, such as Cypress. Testing frameworks. However, commonly people use unit testing as well, using jest and some well, I'm not sure how it's called. DOM emulation. Mocking. Besides that, I would write just tests on any services I have and also custom hooks I am using. While writing those, I always try to follow dependency injection principle. Great answer. You covered the basic operation. Appreciate the inclusion and as well. It's great you brought Cypress. So this excellent. Blah blah blah. It's important and face and sure of course. You mentioned jest, which is widely used. Further by mentioning just mock. For function component. Also discussing React components with React testing library. Okay, honestly, that's the one I have no idea how it works. It encourages writing tests that simulate how a user interacts with command. Testing custom hooks. I like to bring up testing custom hooks. React just a bit tricky, but so we're ensure that their function is expected. I have expanded on this by showing an example of how you test a custom with render hook from testing library React hooks package. Yeah, just mentioned it because I thought it was cool, but I never did that. Dependency also mentioned following additional testing with help of touch and test coverage. Sounds like just coverage reporting. Overall approach as testing seems solid. Let's wrap up with the final question. In the job description mentioning the client's immersion in the business, can you give an example of how would approach gathering clients and collaborating with clients to ensure the project is successful? How do you handle change of feedback from the client during the development? Okay, I read it once more. And also I will write this down, the one that I failed miserably. React testing library. I need to take a look at this at least. And also, yeah, I don't think testing hooks separately worth my time. Okay, let's read it one more time. Communication with clients. In the job description mentions communications with clients and immersion in the business. Can you give an example of how you would approach gathering requirements and collaborating with clients to ensure the project successful? Okay, I would insist if I was responsible for the project and I would insist in personal meeting with the client where we would discuss all business related stuff, including what software do they use now and how, what do they expect from the new software, what are their major pains and expectation. After that, I would come up with blueprint scaffold. How they call it? Blueprint draft document for the official for the official tech requirements. With this document we would have another meeting after which they will make adjustments to the documents. I would try to deliver the MVP for the product as soon as possible. Architecting the software and orchestrate the groups working on it in such a way that there are no blockers. Once MVP ready, I would start constantly gathering feedback on daily or weekly basis. I would arrange my team to work in true continuous delivery and integration mode, meaning with meaning that releases would come on daily basis, at least internal ones, and external ones weekly. With or on demand. Excellent response. You outlined a clear and thoughtful approach to communication. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe this ChatGPT is not capable of saying like you're an asshole. Okay, delivering quickly feedback. I don't care much what you think about it. Overall, your answers show strong understanding of both technical business aspects. I believe be a great fit for our team. Okay, I passed I passed ChatGPT HANA virtual interview, but still no, because there is a 50 minutes there is also a 50 minutes programming session in which I should share my screen with you and perform and solve some tasks for you. Please, Hannah, invent a task for me that covers at least some of the requirements and can be easily implemented in 15 minutes. Hannah, great! For the 15-minute programming session, I'll give you a task that touches on both Node.js and React TypeScript. Folks working with databases. Yo, motherfucker! Are you sure it's 15 minutes? Build a simple CRUD API with Node.js and React. It's simple REST API in Node.js using Express or another minimal framework of choice that allows you to perform CRUD operation like create, read, update the letter on a list of tasks, like a to-do list, or using memory storage to store tasks temporarily. No need to set up database. Okay, implement proper error handling. If a task is not found for update or delete operation. Okay. React TypeScript. Create a React front end that interacts with API to display tasks. The front end should allow users to add and delete tasks. Use TypeScript as API. Okay. Here are some specific requirements. Node.js API. The API should have the following rules: tasks, add new task, update task, delete task, React front end, create button set, update, delete, and make sure this for state management. Okay, folks. This is yet another video. This will be another video.